This is the Working Writer Podcast, episode 49. All right, welcome to this week's Working Writer Podcast. I'm excited this week because we have an incredible guest on, but before we get to that, we want to be the place where you come to for some motivation, for some dedication to get writing and keep writing, because that's what we love to do around here, especially hearing from you, the beginning writers. So this week, I am your humble host, Brad Staggs. As always, by my side, virtually at least, producer Dave Bunnell. How you doing this week, Dave?
Oh, not too bad. I'm recovering from a herniated disc in my back. Getting over that. So the only thing I had written this past week was a subscription or prescription.
You are definitely on you're on the pain meds right now.
I am. So I'm going to slur a little bit through my words, but yeah. I'm not.
I promise you, folks, it's pain meds, not booze.
I do not take pain meds. So when I do have to take them, it's usually serious. And I'm a lightweight. Like I don't drink that much. And so anything that I take, I have to be very cautious of because I'll have to make sure that I don't, say something I don't mean.
I'm used to you saying things about me. So you go right ahead. That's fine.
Yeah. But, with pain pills, like a lot of athletes end up taking pain pills that have problems with that. And I was thinking about sports writing. And I was thinking about that's another creative outlet. I'm a huge fan of sports movies. Right. But I like it when they're authentic. I like watching like things that get it. So like if you're into the sport, so if it's about like amateur wrestling or if it's about MMA or boxing, it actually gets it right. And a lot of that comes from just how you tell that story.
I think being able to tell a story in a sports article is a talent.
Yeah, because if you're not there, if you're just reading it, the ability to be able to read an article and feel like you were there, I think is a talent in itself, and not many people could do that. But this week's guest, I think, is someone who does do that, and he's a very talented writer who is in the sports genre. He's also a podcaster.
Right. Pierce is a fantastic sports writer especially on his Substack, which we'll be linking to his Substack below because he has a lot of great articles, even if he does write about the LA Rams. We'll forgive him for that. Hopefully he'll be able to come up with some kind of defense for that as we talk to him. But let's go ahead and get into it with Pierce Deluna right now. Our guest today is not only a podcaster in his own right with the First and Tuna podcast. He writes articles about and reports on his beloved Los Angeles Rams for whatever reason. We'll get into that. He's a California State University at Sacramento grad, a marketing and brand consultant, and you can read his stuff on his Substack, which will be linked below. From Stockton, California, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Pierce Deluna. The celebrity crowd is going insane at this point.
The crowd goes mild. They heard Stockton. That's true. They heard Stockton, and they're like, "Where the heck is that? Where's that
California?
From?
I'm sorry, we can't listen to this. I got that. I got it.
yeah.
And
terrible
drinking
blue
iced
state.
coffee
Terrible
or
blue
something.
state.
Just to jump in there, they know about Stockton. Because before I moved to California, I knew about Stockton. And what I knew about Stockton was don't go. Don't.
As he said earlier, you're a member of the Sith, so you know about everything.
I will say, in defense of my hometown, I will tell people. So the best thing about it is very close to all the cool stuff. No, in the Valley, it is in the heartland. You can drive 40 minutes to Sacramento, an hour to the Bay, like not too long to get out to Tahoe. It is very close to everything. If you want great food, there is a really, really good selection of food in Stockton. To this day, after living in LA for a few years, I will say the best pho is still in Stockton, California. I will say that.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Travel Podcast. We will be going over the weather in the Valley in just a moment. Watching the weather from out there, when I was out there watching the weather with 18 different temperate zones on one weather forecast, was all kinds of fun. All right, Pierce, we're going to get into the meat of why we're here. I have a very, very important question for you. Probably the most important question you will be asked today, at least within the next hour, I'm sure. Let's get your take on this. You ready?
Yeah.
Who is the better offensive leader? Kurt Warner, when he was with the old St. Louis Rams, or Matt Stafford?
Oh, man.
Come on, give me the truth.
Dang. So, having watched Matthew Stafford a lot closer than I did Kurt Warner when I was a kid growing up, or at least not as I would. Oh my God!
But he's still a legend there, no matter what.
Yeah, I am very addicted to football. I will say, I think the things that Matthew Stafford is doing, I think now having won an MVP, I'm gonna have to give it to him, just because of especially his time in Detroit, the 12 plus years that he spent in Detroit. I don't think a lot of people realize how many more games they would have lost as a franchise if they did not have Stafford. I know they went through one winless season before he got there. I think they have another one, if not for Matthew Stafford. The things that he was doing with Calvin Johnson, he has 2 or 3 of the all-time great wide receiver seasons that he quarterbacked. I think you could put me out there at wide receiver and somehow I'd have pretty decent numbers. He'd find a way. It's like the ball finds wide receivers when he's at quarterback. I'm very sad the Rams couldn't figure out a defense to get him into a Super Bowl this year. But
well, you are a 5'11" receiver, so at 5'11", you'll be able to hit all of those. You'll be able to get all those passes.
5'10" and a half, according to David. I'll keep it truthful. I'll keep it truthful.
Okay, for everybody listening, don't worry. This is not just going to be us talking about football, even though we could probably do that for the next several hours. We are a writing podcast, and so what we need to do is go back to the beginning of your writing career. What made you want to be a sports writer, and how'd you get into that?
There's 2 different moments. The furthest, deepest memory I can remember writing, I was a very interesting kid when I went to school, starting about mid-elementary all the way through like mid-high school. I always tested great. I always had great essays. I just always was in detention because I could not shut up. I love ADHD. But it was always, anytime we had a big project, a big essay to do, or even a group project, I was always in charge of any kind of writing portion. So I knew very early that I'm good at this. My writing levels was pretty high. And then it was actually about 2.5, 3 years ago. I, just like most, 20, 30 something year old men, I consume football daily, even in the off season. And it got to a point where I'm noticing trends in the media when it comes to very clickbait articles, videos, gotcha moments, or hey, we got this big piece, and then it's 3 paragraphs of introductory information that does nothing for me, and hit pieces on players. And I finally hit a breaking point where I was like, dude, I can do better than this. I got so fed up watching someone's video and reading their articles. I could do better than this. First piece I put out into the ether was on Byron Young, one of the young defensive players at that time 3 years ago. And I posted it, just wanted to have fun, test my chops. And that player, Byron Young, actually reshared it on his social media. And nice. That was very gratifying that day. And I was like, oh, okay, I don't suck. That's cool. And like most writers, you kind of go through your writing block periods trying to figure out hey, my next piece has to be my next big piece. And then it took some time to figure out, what your voice is and just what do I even want to write about. But it was about 2 or 3 years ago. Just honestly getting fed up with what I saw in sports media and saying, I think I could do better, and doing my best to try.
Now you've got a Substack. What happens because I'm sure I haven't read every one of your pieces. You've got quite a few, but I've read through quite a few of them. When you get somebody who says, hey, thanks for writing this, what happens to the players that you aren't necessarily as glowing about? Do you get the negative feedback from them, or do they just ignore you at that point?
Yeah, not just ignore. But so it is.
Get you kicked out of training camp,
right? That is one of the more challenging parts of, because as I transition into this career, you move from fan into journalist. And I've had this conversation. Shout out to Nate Atkins at The Athletic. He gave me a lot of feedback on this, where yes, you want to be sociable, you want to be friendly to the players because they're the ones that are going to help you make your money. They're the ones that are going to help you succeed. If you just do nothing but hit pieces and you're super negative and critical and attacking them as a character, you're going to get a lot of no's for requests. You're going to get a lot of one-word answers when you do talk to them. So when you're being critical of players, my rule of thumb is keep it to on the field. Don't make sweeping overgeneralizations of just because they messed up one play. Oh, they suck. Everything they do is terrible. I hope their milk was spoiled, and I hope they step on something. I hope they step on a Lego. You have to keep it to just what's all happening on the field. And the interactions I've had after, the players are used to it. They know that every single thing they do, down to what do they eat at dinner, if it was publicized, if it was out in the open, people were going to talk negatively about it. So it's the unfortunate part of this market. But yeah, as long as you keep it critical to just on the field, like, hey, I think this guy messed up this play. I think this coach needs to do better here. Don't attack people personally, and they don't take it personal. Like, they go through some pretty good training on media stuff.
No, I think that's a great learning point for all the young writers who may be wanting to get into journalism, or especially sports journalism, because it's really easy in sports journalism. Stay away from the overgeneralization. Stay away from the broad sweeping generalizations that will say all, everything, always, something like that, because that's not journalism. That is, like you said earlier, trying to get the clickbait. That is just being hateful about things, because everybody can have a bad game, can have a bad day. And if you start doing the overgeneralizations in your journalism, you've got no place to go. You literally have put yourself in a hole that you can't get out of at that point. So you have to talk to a lot of different personalities in sports reporting. And we know that some big egos, some are humble, depending on where they are, what they're coming from. What goes into crafting that good question for a player, whether it be a win or especially a loss, that you have to think about getting something that maybe the other reporters aren't getting?
I think what I've noticed, what has helped me stand out a little bit differently, I'm not sure if I'm really answering the question in fully, so I'll give kind of a two-part answer.
It's your start in politics. You go right ahead.
Thank you. My background is football. Like, I've played football, high school, a little bit collegiately. And so when you've been in locker rooms and you've been around football, and it's you can kind of get a sense. You can tell, like, when you talk to somebody else, like, like, oh, this person, the kids say, knows ball. This person knows ball. And for me, knowing ball and understanding what happens in locker rooms, understanding how players think and, like, really what their priorities are, that helps craft certain questions. That helps see past just the veil of, oh, this is a football player. Oh my gosh, like, put them on a platform. It does help you just talk to them as a human. Like, hey, this is another 25-year-old human. This is a son. This is a kid in most instances where, yeah, they're great at football. They know everything, but they have not experienced life yet. Like, they just got out of college. And so being able to craft questions like that, fortunate part is no matter how big of a star is, I have not once run into somebody who was, like, too good to talk to you, or
that's great.
Acted too important. A good example is, so Quentin Lake, one of the captains for the Rams, when we were at Super Bowl week in San Francisco, our first walk in the door into Radio Row, we run into Quentin Lake. I've interviewed him before, like, years ago. We're familiar with each other. Just saw him at training camp, and it was like super. Like, if you did not know who he was, you would just think he's a tall, handsome looking dude. And you walk up to him, you're like, "Oh, hey, what's up?" He's like, "Oh, hey, what's up, man?" And you just chop it up a little bit. Like, "Hey, do you have 2 minutes to give us, like, before, as you're walking to your next interview?" Publicist says, "Yeah, you got 3 minutes." They kept it short. But no, I've not once run into somebody who has an ego or, like, makes it challenging. If anything, their PR training makes it so easy. They're like super open, and all these guys, like, they want to be seen. They want to be heard in a different light. So the other thing that helps is you don't just ask them the basic questions like, why do you like football? What inspires you? do a little research. Where do they come from? Don't just ask, what's it like living there? Like, no, find out.
If you weren't playing football, what do you think you'd be doing?
Exactly. Another example was I did a combo interview with two guys from Mississippi that actually played in the same hometown, played against each other in high school, happenstance that play on the Rams now. And so just having fun with that, talking about like who got the best of who in that game, who's faster, let them argue about it. Like literally just talk like you're talking to guys in a locker room if you've been there. A lot of folks like appreciate that. And despite me being like 10 years older than all these guys that I'm interviewing, don't show your age. Just be one of them. It goes a long way.
Sorry, but sometimes I just can't help but show my age, every day, every single day. And we're going to put a pin in the whole Super Bowl comment because you just kind of glossed over that, but we're going to be coming back to that. So don't worry, folks. We're going to be coming. Right. Sorry. We're going to be coming back to that. When I was doing sports reporting, it was on radio, doing the games on radio. So it's easy when you've got the crowd noise in the background, you've got the excitement of the moment, getting into the moment itself. How do you translate that excitement into the written piece?
Dang, I had not thought about that question. It's a very good question.
That's what we're here for. We're here to dive into the soul, into the bare your soul.
Man, am I going to cry by the end of this? I hope so. I need a good cry.
I forgot to tell you, this is your life. We're going to be bringing out old girlfriends. This is going to be a really, your psychiatrist is on standby, speed dial. Don't worry. But anyway, yes, the excitement, easy for us when we're doing it live, when we're actually announcing it live, but in your written pieces, because I've read your written pieces and I love the energy, I love the flow that you have in those. But what's your thought process for writers? How do you take that live excitement of a game that they probably watched live on Sunday or whatever day they're playing that week and translate that into something they'll want to read with that excitement into the written word?
I did it I like the style. I like opening some of my pieces, especially if it is about, a recap of a game or highlighting a player. I think of a moment. I think of like, okay, what's something that's going to grasp my attention to read this piece? Same thing that grasps my attention when like a commercial for a movie. They're going to show you a quick action piece. They're going to show you something to like grab onto your emotions, pull your heartstrings. You can do the same thing when you're writing about sports. Hey, let me describe the time on the clock. The blades of grass moving underneath the guy's cleat as Puka Nacua is making a toe tap grab. Maybe something I genuinely felt while I was at the game, watching and taking notes. Just using that descriptive type of language can like bring a person back a week, a month, a year to like, oh yeah, I remember. Like I was so excited when that one play happened. And sports does something special where it does take you back to like, I know exactly where I was, like what I was eating when a certain play happens. So being able to do that, I think just using that kind of language is crazy important in sports. We think about it, especially when it comes to non-fictional work, trying to describe characters and create the backdrop of what the scene is to get you bought into the story. I mean, football is a great story. Like sports are great stories. Why don't we use that same language? And we don't need to be just cut and dry of like, hey, this guy had this many yards. Like, that's cool. We can get to that part. But like, we love football for a reason. We don't love it just because it's all action and high flying. It's emotional. Like it is drama all the time. So can we talk about it in a dramatic tone without over sensationalizing it to the point of fiction? Like let's get it right on that borderline, because these guys are superheroes. Like we have to use the matching language to describe what they do. So I guess that's how I try to.
Oh yeah, I really wanted to get your take on that answer, simply because I've read so many sports journalists who are dry. They're either wanting to be dry, they're wanting to be straight journalists for the whole thing, or they don't really know how to take that emotional language. They don't know how to take the descriptors and put it into the game scenario. When I read your stuff, and I'm not just blowing smoke, this is true. When I read your stuff, it reminded me of somebody scripting the old NFL films. from when I was growing up in the 70s. And they were talking about Staubach and his drop back, and they're talking about Terry Bradshaw. But the old NFL films with that resonant voice telling you, here's what this game felt like. Because, of course, they didn't have sound for most of those at that time. And I was really impressed by that, because getting somebody to read the written word and get the same emotion and feeling out of watching that game as literally being there in the stadium and watching the game is, I think, an incredibly difficult feat. And I think you do it beautifully.
Thank you. Wow. That is probably one of the nicest compliments I've ever gotten about my writing. I've been blessed enough to receive quite a few the last 2 years from like a lot of prestigious people such as yourself. So that does mean a lot.
Well, you can tell that you love the game. You can tell that you love the subject.
Yeah.
Which I think is everything, because for somebody who's not, full disclosure, I'm not a Los Angeles Rams fan. I was a St. Louis Rams fan, not Los Angeles Rams. Just like I like the Oakland Raiders. I have no idea what's going to happen in Vegas, and I don't really care. Just the way it was.
Don't get me started on a relocation of NFL teams, man.
Hey, Indiana will have the Bears soon, so we'll have everybody.
Yeah, I'm not happy about that. Sorry.
Well, believe me, none of us are either. The Hammond Bears, like that's going to happen. But no, I think, especially in sports writing, not just football, but any sport that's worth us going to and having our time with, you have to display that excitement. You have to get the people to read it, to understand what's going on. Especially, the NFL is branching out into other countries and has even more and more next year. Getting those people in other countries to get in on the excitement, I think, is something that is going to be a trade that will be something that you'll need to really develop. A lot of people will need to develop, and I think you're already there. That if somebody from another country wanted me to explain football, I'd turn them onto your Substack and say, well, here's where the excitement comes in, if you're just wanting to read something about them.
So, wow. Yeah, that's you hit a brilliant part about the international part, and we are actually in the process of trying to get a full-time translator for our pieces to translate it into Spanish, for Spanish written word. No, I'm serious, because it's the Rams, they do their Vamos Rams initiative. It's Los Angeles is obviously a majority Hispanic demographic. I come from a Hispanic background, and I think having Spanish written word for all the fans out there would be phenomenal for people. So no, you hit it right on the nail. I'll start translating it to Australian terms for when the Rams play there next year.
Oi.
I have no idea any of their lingo.
Just a lot of oi and raise a beer.
Sweet.
Past that, you'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Sweet.
When you are doing your interviews, when you're out there, I know you have to do them real fast because everybody's going from one thing to another, especially in sports. Are you audio recording your interviews, or are you trusting yourself are you from the old school where you have your pad and you're writing it down?
If it's digital like this, I'll record it. If it is out in the field, that's probably what we're talking about, out in the field.
Yeah.
Training camp, I learned really quickly, everybody's just voice recording. Even Gary over at the Times, I saw him with the recorder. Stu Jackson of the Rams, like all the big wigs, they got their little fancy recorder. They go up, plop it on the podium, and they'll take little notes of like maybe keywords or key moments of like, hey, make sure we highlight this, or maybe a working title. I have very open. I have ADHD. There is not a chance in the world I would be able to just write and focus and remember anything that we talked about in that interview. But it also allows me to just be myself. Because if I am trying to write at the same time as actively listen, I'm going to miss half of everything, miss quotables. So in this field, like, you have to record it. Misquoting an athlete can get you and them in a lot of trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, especially today. How many words are you going for each of your articles?
Dang.
Do you even bother with that since you're substacking?
No. I should actually do a word count. That is a good bit of So that's a good bit of accountability. As you're my unofficial editor at this point. I try to. I think it's more of a feel so far, as much as I'm kind of ashamed to admit that. If it's a quick hitting piece, I'm not going to sit here and drag out 1,000 words for, hey, by the way, this guy's injured, or hey, Rams just signed this guy. If it's big news, sure, let's do a deep dive, but we're going to make it very open. Like, who is this person? About his background. You got to set up the reader to know what they expect. Like, hey, is this a 30-second read?
Yeah.
Is this 30-second read, or am I going to need to sit down on a toilet to read this entire thing in 5 minutes? Yeah, you got to be very conscientious of, and that was part of the reason I got into writing, because some people make videos on everything, which is cool. Like that 60-second video turned into 10 minutes of just yapping,
rambling. Yeah,
and I don't think that's necessary. I think I respect people's time more than that. So yeah, we'll new coming this season, a word count. We're gonna do that. Thank you.
Well, that's why I have producer Dave, because he edits all my rambling out. It makes it much easier that way.
David rambles all the time. What do you mean?
Well, he does, but he can edit me. I have a hard time thinking that people can really edit themselves. I know I can't. The show has made leaps and bounds since he came on board to do that.
Oh, I do. If I feel myself talking too much, nope, cut that whole segment out. I hate my own voice.
What I like to do the hanging mic. So I like to ask a question and then just sit back and let somebody ramble however they want, because I've gotten some interesting quotes through the years by letting people just ramble. Oh, hi. Hey, sorry to interrupt your podcast listening pleasure, but I just wanted to let you know that the Working Writer Podcast finally has a sponsor. That's right, our first sponsor. And our first sponsor is Fiberglass Freaks Batman Museum. That's right, I said Batman Museum. It is a museum dedicated to the 1966 television show. Adam West, the greatest Batman ever put on film. I will fight anybody for that. Burt Ward is Robin. It is a museum dedicated to that show. They actually have screen use props. Right now they have the number 4 Batmobile built. And that was a screen-used Batmobile from the show. It is on display there. It's run by Mark Rakup, who owns Fiberglass Freaks, Warner Brothers' only official 1966 Batman replica builder. And I'm not talking about some little toy. I'm talking about fully operational, full-size Batmobile replicas that are fantastic. You can see them at the museum. He may even take you for a tour of the shop. Everything you could want from your childhood is at this museum, located at 525 East Market Street in Logansport, Indiana. It is worth the drive. It's worth the trip there. Everybody who goes there loves it. Say hi to Mark. Say hi to Abby, the manager. Great gal. It's a fun time. So when you go there, be sure to tell them that Working Writer Podcast sent you. So now, let's get you back to what you came for, the podcast. Okay, importantly, we're taking that pin out. We're going back to the Super Bowl. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I know the Super Bowl is over. It's never really over in our hearts, though. The commercials play on forever, no matter what you want to do. So you had the Super Bowl experience this year. Importantly, were you rooting against the Patriots? Past that, I don't care.
I honestly was rooting for the most phenomenal halftime show imaginable. That was at the fan part of me. It was very hard to want any outcome. Like I wanted it to go to 4 overtimes and everyone to just have a miserable time. Despite it sucks. It's a lose-lose for Rams fans, because it's either your division rival who you had to play 3 times this year and you lost in heartbreaking fashion both of those games, or an AFC foe who you cannot stand because of past demons. Either one of them wins, it's a nightmare. So a lot of Rams fans were kind of watching it because it's the Super Bowl. You're American, you're going to watch it, but not really rooting for anybody. And I will admit it was a very, very sour taste in my mouth watching it, because like you have an MVP in Matthew Stafford. We just talked him up, and you're right there. I don't know how. Who is it? I think back to Bills fans. So Rams have been very close in the playoffs last few years, but not as close as Bills fans. 4 straight Super Bowls was in the 90s, right? 4 straight Super Bowls and losing every single one. I would rather have a winless season mixed in. That is a level of heartbreak that I can't imagine. But no, back to the Super Bowl. It was a lose-lose for a lot of us here in LA.
But how was it for going to the Super Bowl? How do you enjoy that? Actually being there?
Yeah, so we got to we experienced Radio Row. I was in the area for the actual Super Bowl game. That was the one level of clearance that the NFL didn't allow us to have as an independent. But going to San Francisco, experiencing Radio Row, that was actually our last goal for the season. When the 2025 season started, like every profession, like you have your goals, your personal, your career. And for many of them, one was, hey, let's reach monetization on YouTube. We hit that. Let's get a certain level of motion. I had my own goals for like in the actual community, like boots on the ground with the tailgating groups and other community groups in the area. We hit those. The last one was somehow, some way, I need to be in San Francisco on Radio Row. Not just there, because anyone can go to the fan experience. I want to have one of these. I want to have a credential and with my name on it and be allowed to talk to media. And we got that. We got it at the final buzzer. Our good friends over at Lady Lib Sports and Entertainment. It's nice to have friends in great places. And I think the whatever, access code they gave me and everything, it helped out. It got re-looked at, and being there was very validating as an independent, as somebody who is, this is a one-man band. I don't have a team, and being able to be standing shoulder to shoulder with the likes of Jordan Rodriguez of the NFL, with Greg Rosenthal of the NFL, and just to have candid conversations. And I will say that was my favorite part of Radio Row, despite talking to players, talking to other personalities, seeing Cam Newton, watching the Pat McAfee show live. Going up to Jordan Rodriguez, if you're unfamiliar with her, writer for The Athletic, former Rams beat writer, but now she's one of the best NFL writers around right now. And Greg Rosenthal of the NFL, I walked up, just wanted to say, hey, don't know if you remember me. Before I could even get it out of my mouth, she was like, oh, Pierce. And she turns to Greg and says, this guy works his ass off. And I had one conversation with her at camp months and months ago. We don't interact online like that. For her to remember that, like remember me at camp and maybe have tuned into my pieces here and there online, hearing that from somebody who's at the top of the game I'm trying to play, that was incredibly validating. And I tell that story to get to that word, validating, as a journalist, as a writer. It gives you public credibility, because people who know, like, oh yeah, like, Pierce was at the Super Bowl, like he is an actual journalist. But then to hear it from other journalists too, I'm not gonna lie, like it makes me emotional thinking about it. You work really, really hard for something, and to have somebody from the outside that you look up to acknowledge you is very, very, very heartfelt and very rewarding.
And you were at the Super Bowl when it happened.
Yeah, that's I totally glossed over that part again. It was no. So the energy there, the fan experience, imagine a huge, really expensive state fair just for football. And it's like a football fanboy's dream. It was super fun. Like, it's fans of every team. Like everyone is wearing a jersey from the only team I did not see, I don't think I saw a Buccaneers fan. I will say that. I saw some Colts. I saw some Peyton Mannings. I saw Marvin Harrison for sure.
Nice.
And being able just to the atmosphere there where everyone's excited for the same football game. I think it's the greatest sport in the world. I talked to people from Ireland. I talked to people travel all over the country just to be there. Like people that didn't even have tickets for the game. They're like, no, I just want to be in the area. Like my team's not even playing, but I want to be in Santa Clara. It's the closest thing that if you're not a religious person that you can get to traveling to Mecca.
I compare it to the families from around the world that spend their whole life saving to go to Disney World or Disneyland.
Exactly.
I worked the 2003 NFL kickoff out in DC. And we had people, like you said, from everywhere. And then we had the NFL experience here in Indianapolis for the Super Bowl, which the Patriots lost in Indianapolis. I always have to put that in there just because it's fun. Ruined their perfect season. Makes me happy.
I didn't realize that was I don't remember. That was in Indiana.
That was in Indianapolis. And it was, it was a Manning who beat Tom Brady. And
I remember Peyton. I remember Peyton celebrating in the box. I remember that shot of him up there.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm one of the few, and I guess it was a hot take, but Eli Manning deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Like for those 2 games alone, that's what are we talking about? That's historic.
No, I think anybody who makes it to the Super Bowl needs to be in the Hall of Fame. Sorry, but you may call that a hot take, but no matter what happened later in their career where they might have fallen away and not had as good a career later, it doesn't matter. They need to be in the Hall of Fame.
Even
we'll never
Rex Grossman.
Dave might, quarterback in the Super Bowl, but hey, you leave Rex alone. You leave Rex alone.
He is an Indiana native, but
that's right.
I just wanted to throw in there. I actually worked that Super Bowl in Indianapolis, and that was pretty amazing experience. Although I did find out that our public transportation is not on par to handle a lot of the people from other places. They'd call, they're like, man, it's going to take like an hour and a half to get a cab. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty standard.
Cab?
Like, this is before Uber. We didn't even have Uber then.
I was like, we're calling people? What? I don't call people these days. That was the same experience. I'm hyping it up and everything, but the grim reality of having any huge global event in San Francisco, if you are not familiar with the Bay Area, it is, man, I missed LA traffic when I was in San Francisco. It's downtown, but you're bringing in all this extra foot traffic. It's 2-lane downtown streets. It's one ways. It's 1-lane streets.
I couldn't imagine being a cable car driver during that time. That had to just be insane.
Impossible. Literally, it took me about an hour to escape 6 city blocks our last night there. And I don't think they should have it again in San Francisco, because it's not in San Francisco. It's in Santa Clara, which is an hour away from the city. So,
and as somebody who was a Niners fan back in the day and went to real Candlestick, I haven't been to the Santa Clara place.
Miserable stadium. It's not a fun one. At afternoon games, it is 100 degrees in every seat. It's rough. It's rough.
See, I remember the old Candlestick and having the breeze coming in off the bay.
Yep.
And how nice that was. So, no, thanks.
One of my more fun stadiums. Yeah, one of my more fun stadiums was actually Lucas Oil. I went there a few years ago.
Yep.
Took a photo with the Manning statue. I donned a Colts shirt. I was like, I want to be a local today. I want to fit in. Because you guys are playing... go ahead.
At least Indianapolis is a walking city, so we can get from one place to another pretty easily. Down to the
it was fun. Stopping at the local the little bar at the corner by the stadium and walking with a drink was nice. No, that stadium was awesome. I loved it. The roof was open that day, so it was loud.
We're very happy with it after having the dome for so long. So the RICA dome, the RCA dome,
old RCA dome.
That just wasn't an Indiana aesthetic. We're more of the brick building Lucas Oil kind of place.
I do love it. It is a great stadium.
Yeah, let Jerry Jones have his big monstrosity. We'll take something smaller. Hey, tell the people where they can find you online. Where you at?
Best place, Substack. I don't remember the entire URL, but if you look up First and Tuna, just like, First and 10, if you're a big football fan, find us there on Substack. Same on YouTube. I'd really appreciate if you guys came on, check us out on YouTube. And then social media. We're on every social, so if you just want to tap in and kind of stay up to date that way, we're heavily on Twitter and Instagram.
There is no more Twitter. Come on, I'm the guy who's supposed to say Twitter.
I can't. You're young. I can't. I will not call it by that's its stripper name. I will use its legal name of Twitter. Yes.
It's my ex formerly known as Twitter.
That's actually a great one.
I understand. Fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on today, Pierce. Great information to anybody who's trying to get into the game of writing for sports, because it's out there, folks. You just find your favorite team and start writing, because they'll use everything they can get. Pierce, I appreciate your time today. I know you're an awful busy guy out there with the Rams Kingdom, or whatever it is that you Ramheads call it. I don't know.
Ramily. We call them they're the Ramily.
Thank you so much. I follow your Substack. I follow your YouTube. And everybody else should do the same, because we're all sports fans deep down inside. Okay. I'm not an LA Rams fan, but Pierce probably could turn me into an LA Rams fan, or at least his writing.
I've been to a couple of fan events I went down there in LA and met him at a fan event once, and I'm not a huge football fan, but it was a blast. And just seeing the passion and the people there. They had a guy who was dressed up as Spider-Man, but it was Ram Spider-Man. They had a Deadpool, same thing. It's
wouldn't that be Ram Man?
Well, it's
Spider Ram.
Yeah, I think it was Spider Ram, but it was that costume, but they used the LA Ram colors, and it's fun. Like, everyone loves sports and having your team. And just being able, and these people are passionate and they just absolutely love it. I'm up here. I'm about 15 minutes from the stadium for the 49ers, which is nowhere near San Francisco, by the way.
No.
And I just don't care for the Niners. Like, I don't feel they have that passion. They have a good fan base, but they also feel like entitled.
Yeah. Well, they didn't back when I was a Niners fan. Back in the 80s, it was a different team.
Well, we win so many games, so many championships, then all of a sudden you get that big head. Yeah. But no, that was a great conversation. And
oh my gosh,
the thing that I think I enjoyed the most about it is just the idea of, like, you don't need to know anyone to start writing. You just do it and just work on your craft and send your stuff in and see what happens. Because coming from small town. And I think Pierce he's a California guy, so he's always been from here. So we have different mentalities about that. Coming from the Midwest, you kind of growing up, you're like, I can't do that. I'm here.
Right.
And he's always had that idea of, like, why can't I do that? I'm here, because he was already in California, and he's like, I have everything I need. So, but with today's society and with the internet, with everything it is, that's the mentality everyone can have. And so I think it's very, very motivating.
Both of us growing up here in the Midwest, especially, I know for me growing up, Hollywood was a foreign country. It was another planet. There was no way that there was no avenue for kids where I was from to get to there, unless your parents drove you 3 days across the country to go there.
And there was no one, there was no one even to ask. You couldn't be like, hey, how do I get into movies? And the answer is like, you don't. Like, that's a waste of time. You can't do that.
But now, with what we can do now, you can get your name out there. You can write. You can keep writing on a Substack. On blogs are still out there. You know, no matter what you want to do, there's an outlet for it. I mean, this podcast alone, we have an outlet for this. You know, you can do that, and that's what I love about it. And what I want all of you writers, especially the first timers, especially the writers, getting used to what you need to do, just keep writing. No matter what it is. I don't care what it is. Don't stop writing. That's the important thing. Have that passion, especially the passion like Pierce has. You just get going and you get it done. And once you get going, we want to hear from you. We want to know what you're working on. We want to know how you're doing. Write to us at workingwriterpodcast@gmail.com. Follow us on all of our socials. Talk to us. Give us a rating, whatever you want to do. Just let us know how you're doing, because that's the important thing. And don't stop writing, because once you start writing, you will love it. You will find out that it's a passion. It's more than a job. It is your passion. Do your job, pay your bills, but follow your passion. But for now, get to writing.